Universal astrology is all about combining all forms of astrology into one system. When you look at Vedic astrology, you deal with a system that deals with real time. So it's actually predictive upon us and how it affects us. When you look at Western astrology, you're looking at a system which deals with your psyche, your mind. How does your mind react? Whereas when we look at the Vedic, it's all about the predictions. How did you get there to that position that you're in right now in your life? So when you look at the different house systems that people use, they have different ways of interacting with your mind. Now, when you look at astrology as a whole entire system, you see that there are different ways of looking at a birth chart and a different way of looking at someone's ideal perspective of thinking. So this is all to do with how people have labeled things to comfort their zones. So it's just like religion. You have, Christianity, you have Buddhism. Different systems have different ways of praying and different belief systems that they choose. It's all about how your mind wants to operate in various ways. So people are stuck in their own ways when you're dealing with astrology. So we got to take astrology beyond the steps. In its sense, we have to look at the esoteric terms, and in its sense, we also have to look at the aspect which deals with real timing in astrology, because astrology ties into astronomy, and astronomy ties into astrology. So you need one and the other to kind of correlate. And obviously, the psychological aspect of astrology would be the Western astrology, which will deal with your psychological response to various things that happen in your life. Now, when we take a step further into astrology now, we look at medical astrology. Medical astrology would be how you look at various things that have happened in your life, how you thought affected now your physical body. Now, when you came into birth, you had various illnesses or various parts in you which didn't relate correctly to the outside world. So, in essence, you had to fix various aspects. So, for example, someone that is born in the month of October will probably have issues with their lower kidney or their kidneys within themselves, and sometimes the nervous system, because now we have to look at the two signs that are in relations to that health crisis. We'll look at Virgo and we will look at Libra. Virgo deals with the nervous system and the bowels, the stomach, and then you look also at the Libra. Libra deals with the kidneys. So it's both lower parts of the body now that are interacting. So and in essence, you look at the sun sign. The sun sign is the most explosive sign. So the most explosive, the most explosive planet is the sun, because it gives light to the universe, should we say, to a universe, and it gives light to the earth. When we look at the sun, it gives light to the earth. So it's explosive, it's expressive in that sense. So it has to give off that light, that kind of energy into the world. So this is the reason why when we look at your star sign, we're able to identify where you express your energy the most, and in essence that will be one of the main criteria where your energy will be explosive. So in ancient times, you weren't allowed to be a doctor unless you studied astrology or you knew astrology to an extent, because when you're dealing with a patient, you would have to let them know, okay, the type of issues they're about to get, and also how to diagnose and how to remove that disease. So we will look at both sides of the picture when you were dealing with health. So it's very important that when you're consulting someone, that they know part of these things. Like various people, health consultant will tell you about what's wrong, but they haven't looked into your psychological response. They haven't looked into your your behaviors and how that affects your health. So all of that comes into correlation. We have to kind of look at the relationship between all of these aspects. So when we're dealing with astrology, we have to look at everything. We look at the elements as well. How does the elements affect you? You know, when you eat, you're actually eating various types of element. When you look at the periodic table, we look at different elements which are linking to one another. Potassium, you know, iron. All of these type of elements are actually correlating and reacting to you. So we have to kind of look at how these elements are interacting with the body. So it's very important to look at every detail, every aspect when you're dealing with astrology. In this coming year, 2015, I will be doing astrological consultations. The consultation will actually deal with various ways of how you can deal with various psychological behaviors, certain remedies that can be utilized to function in a better manner, certain ways to kind of help enhance your life to go in the most positive ways. So we have to look at different kind of aspects when you're dealing with astrology. A Vedic astrology would probably be the best astrologer that you could actually go with, because a Vedic astrologer will be able to identify the issues in relations to your previous life. So your previous life or your past life is actually the reason why you're in this life and the position that you're in this life at this moment. So when you look at that aspect, you're able to see what is going on, and now you're able to kind of alter certain things. You know, like they say, in your hand you got your entire life. However, the only thing that you can alter is in the center here. You can alter anything and change anything here, but the end result is the only thing that you can't change, because the end result is how you're meant to go. You have actually set yourself different tasks to do in order for you to reach that end result in your previous lives or in your previous lives. So various lives have accumulated, and you've actually allowed those things to manifest in a particular way. So, and there's obviously main tasks that the soul wants to achieve. The soul wants to learn through different ways. So the soul will put itself in different scenarios in order to complete those scenarios for it to go, for it to learn, so it can take that on to its next journey throughout wherever it wants to go. So we actually are always constantly seeking to know. We are always seeking to know, because knowing is the ultimate truth. Knowing is what we are. So we know through experience. We learn through experience, then we know. Once we know, we understand. Once we understand, we know. So, you know, these two are correlated. So once we understand, we then finally begin to move on, and we grow spiritually. So the spiritual growth is actually something that takes a while. So when we look at astrology, the main aspect is actually liberation, and that is the liberation of the soul. The soul can live up to thousands and trillions and thousands of years, you know, whereas the physical body, the ego, has to die. You know, the physical ego has to die. It's not you. This is what holds us into this earth. Oh, so the physical ego also has the possibility to allow us to actually accelerate our spiritual growth. So when we look at the spiritual growth, we look at the ego. The ego is our aspect which has to have a lot of trauma, because the ego is our fake self, is the self that we want everybody to see. And how the ego matures is through constant experience. The constant experience allows the ego to grow. We are born seeking, and once we begin seeking, we begin to know. We first want to touch everything. When we're children, we want to touch everything. As we grow, we then begin to want to possess things. So we have a car, we have a TV, we have a family, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, a sister. You know, you start associating all of these things, and these are all parts of your ego, all parts of you which you've kind of made connection with. You know, you've created an emotional bond. So then those emotional bond now are part of your ego. That's my sister, that's my brother, that's my wife, that's my husband. So all of these things are created into a form of a bond, and those become the acceleration of the ego. So what happens is, eventually, as time goes on, we begin to lose some of these things. We begin to lose our car, You know, we might lose our wife, we might lose a brother, we might lose a grandma, we might lose a grandpa. These things are parts of us which begin to die. And as these things begin to die, we begin to grow. We begin to become mature. The ego then begins to become mature, because it then learns that those experiences were meant to happen for you to grow spiritually. So then the ego now becomes the seer or the moon, because it would have learned, it would know. So it becomes the reactor, it becomes the one that feels, because it learns. Once you learn, you have to feel. Once you feel, you begin to kind of have a sense of knowing. So when we look at the moon now, the moon deals with our sense of reactivity, how we react, how our mind is thinking, because our mind has learned. So then our moon sign, in essence, is our true self. Now, our true self deals with the aspect of the moon. The moon deals with a sensitive aspect of us, which allows us to move on to the next level. Because you could not know where to go unless you know where your moon sign. The past is the moon, the sun is your ego. The sun teaches you to go in order for you to kind of learn. And the process of learning is to go. And as you go, you learn, you create a past, a memory. The memory is the moon. So this is where the moon comes into astrology. So, and then we kind of sense our moon. We begin to tap into the Hermetic laws. The Hermetic laws, obviously, Tehuti being a lunar deity, Tehuti is Thoth. Thoth is an Egyptian god dealing with the Emerald Tablet. If you're familiar with the 7 Hermetic laws, the 7 Hermetic laws are linked to the process of thinking. The process of thinking are linked to the moon. The moon deals with the self. And obviously we have the ascendant. In Vedic astrology, they talk about the ascendant being the true self. The ascendant is how we approach the earth. It's our true source. It's our ultimate source that we really want to be. It's the key. It's then the, should we say, it's the foreseer. It's the light in the darkness that comprehend of it not. It is the all-seeing eye, in essence, in ourselves. So that is the deeper core of the soul, the deeper real core of the soul. The moon will actually reflect what you've collected, but the ascendant point will know. It's the knower of all. So this is how you kind of see your birth chart, see your whole aspect of self coming into light. This is how you become. Then we look at Venus. The Venus will be your spouse. For a man, it would be the type of woman that he would be attracted to. And obviously the type of woman he adores. He likes, for a woman, it would be Mars. She would look at the Mars aspect, the type of man that she's attracted to. The type of man that, you know, she wants to kind of relate with, or who she wants to build a family with. Then we look at Saturn. When we look at Saturn, we look at the behaviors. Should we say, sorry, the hardships, the obstacles that are placed into our lives. So astrology kind of details all those little tiny little aspects. And you look at Mercury. Mercury is another aspect of the moon, in essence, because Hermes is Tehuti. In essence, we have to look at that, because when you look at Hermes, it deals with the mind. It deals with the medical symbol, the caduceus, the 2 snakes that you see in every hospital. So when you look at that, we look at obviously how the mind thinks, and it's a process of the thinking mind in its quickest aspect, in its mercurial aspect. Just like the planets all have a particular day of the week, and that's mainly to do with the 7 cycles, or we could say the 7 rays. But in essence, we look at the 7 cycles, because the 7 cycles are linked to the 7 planets. And that's, you know, each planet has a rhythm. Each morning, obviously, the sun rises. But then the sun rises, but it doesn't mean that the sun is actually completed its rhythm. The sun completes its rhythm every 52 years. Every 52 years, the sun creates a rhythm. It falls back at the same spot that it was at the time that the rhythm started, from that point of the rising point sign. So we look at the rhythm, and obviously it goes through a cycle, then the rhythm. And obviously when you look at time, right, not to go off the barrier here, when you look at time, Time actually doesn't actually exist. There is no such thing as time. Time is linear. When we look at time, really, it's actually an illusion. We have to look at the past. Past actually details what time is, because the past is actually a memory. A memory is not time. So when you look at time, it has confused us so widely that we're not in synchronicity with natural time, which is actually the rhythm of the planets, the rhythm of the moon. When we look at the natural time, we look at the 13th signs. The 13th sign in the zodiac, because there are 13 moons in a year, right? There are 13 moons in a year. Why? Because there are 13 zodiacs. Because you cannot have 13 cycles of moon a year and not have 13 zodiacs. It does not make sense. Then you would have to kind of sort that out and look at because each moon has a different effect. And for us to have 360 days, then 365 days, that means we have to have 13 moons. Because we're going through that cycle. We have to have 13 moons, or else that calendar is not valid. Right? So we know something now. We know that the calendar that we're using is not valid. The Gregorian calendar is not valid. It's actually a business calendar. It's a calendar which is used to direct people in different aspects of life, which deals with obviously Capricorn being the last zodiac sign in this month. So Capricorn is to do with the initiate, the one that now is beginning to change and is beginning to have the leader aspect. So the leader aspect means that you want to start what we call you want to set up New Year's resolution. When you set up New Year resolutions, you look at Saturn, you look at Capricorn, we look at, the leadership, having a plan. That's what Saturn deals with, that's what Capricorn deals with. Saturn obviously is governed by, Capricorn is obviously governed by Saturn, and Saturn deals with the structure and structuring yourself. This is why in astrology, when you look at health astrology, we deal with the bones. The bones is what holds the body together. That's another aspect of Saturn. Saturn is also another aspect of Osiris, or Osaru, the skull and bones. The 13 pieces of Osiris, or the 14 pieces of Osiris. You're dealing with that sign. So you're dealing with that structure, building the skeleton builds. So this is how you kind of read astrology. So going back into what I was saying earlier, Mercury deals with the mind. So Mercury is a lunar deity. In essence, it goes correlationship with the moon sign. The moon is obviously the mind. Mercury is also the mind. But Mercury deals with the aspect of thinking, whereas the moon is the reactive conspective of the mind. So one is reactive, one is actually thoughtful, one thinks, one is critical. This is what Mercury deals with. Then obviously we deal with Jupiter. Jupiter deals with the aspects of expansion. It deals with our knowledge, how we expand, how we learn, the higher educations, where we take our mind to, long journeys. Journeys in the mind, which are long, journeys externally, which are long. So you're dealing with that aspect of things. So unusual things. Then we've looked at Saturn, we've looked at Venus, we've looked at Mars, we've looked at the major planets. Then obviously we look also at the sun. Obviously the sun we know is the ego. Then we also have in astrology which is called the Ketu and Rahu, or the north and the south node. The north and the south node have different aspects of us. The south node obviously deals with the past, what we're comfortable with. And the north node obviously deals with new things that we need to incorporate into our lives. K2 is about the spiritual aspect. So we have to look at various aspects of astrology when we look at astrology. We cannot detail astrology from just one point, one aspect. It's impossible. You cannot know what is happening in your life without looking at everything in astrology. Astrology is a collective of energies. We have to look at astronomy, and we have to look at health. We have to look at thinking aspect, we have to look at everything. Now, let me go a bit deeper. Astrology is actually the only science which enables you to get a precise understanding of an issue about to happen, because astrology is bound to actuality, which is obviously linked to how you relate to the energies and how energies were constructed in the first place. So when we look at the real aspect of astrology, we see that you cannot link astrology to psychic readings. A psychic reader will only be able to pull out various aspects of someone and let them know various things. Now, an advanced psychic reader will be able to kind of control the elements, note the elements for what they are, and give a precise reading, because they would have gone beyond the elemental energies. Now, the reason why I say this is because the elemental forces themselves have an influence, a direct influence upon us, and obviously they can affect how something will manifest. So they can actually add to the energy which is given upon what is going on in your present life. Whereas someone that is an advanced psychic reader who's manifested and who's understood the 4 and 5 elements, then they can go beyond that. So that won't have any form of effect in that manner. So these are the two different relationships between various psychic readers. So a psychic reader really, unless they really have mastered the elements and have taught various serious schools of thoughts in their previous life, it will be hard for them to actually precisely tap into the current deep issue. Because the deep issue is an astrological one and also a soul one. Because the soul has put itself in that place to learn something. And only through deep meditation and deep vision that one will be able to see, or Jyotish, one will be able to see the light, you know, only through deep contemplation. So meditation is actually key in relations to that. So when we look at meditation, also to tap into that, we can also look into astrology and figure out that meditation is the link between the moon and Mercury. Mercury deals with the mind as well as the moon. So these two correlate to one another. This is how you can kind of precisely give a deeper reading into that light of astrology. Now, when we look at astrology as well, we can also look at various remedies that can be given. The remedies would be such as gemstones that can be given on various times and days, which will also enhance or remove certain negative effects in order for the soul to proceed. And then we can also look at different kind of prayers that one can say on different days. Now, we know, maybe you don't, that the 7 days of the week are linked with the 7 planets. So these are also in relations to astrology, and those prayers will be enhanced during those particular days. So you can use them to kind of enhance a various kind of energy. Looking at the what do you call it, the gemstones, I will be doing in my astrological reading this year, I will be doing a form of a reading which will then give you an option to use Orgone to strengthen your astrological birth chart. So This will involve you having a pendant in relation to the gemstone which will benefit you most. So it could be a ruby, it could be a citrine, it could be a turquoise, whatever the crystal is, we'll be able to identify and find that out. And then I will be able to construct a pendant in relations to that. And I will only be doing it for £30. So roughly in dollars, it'll probably be about $45 or something. Then obviously through that, you'll be able to wear a pendant, which will also help various energies which might be, you know, stopping you from achieving various things in your life. So things like that will also be able, and you know, to change certain things, and will be highly beneficial for certain change and transformations in your life. So gemstones are very important. You know, the different gemstones that you have at home will obviously have an effect on your psychological behavior, as well as your path spiritually. Various prayers, you know, each religion that you're born in, you know, each religion in itself, first and foremost, is linked to they're linked to your school of thought, school of thinking. You know, you're not born a Christian for any reason. You're not born a Catholic or a you know, a Muslim for any reason. You know, there is a specific reason why, and obviously that is also linked to the deity, or should we say the planet. And when I mean deity, I'm talking about the God, the type of God that you worship, that you kind of believe in. You know, when you're dealing with Christianity, you're dealing with the sun god. You're dealing with the sun god, the solar god. When you're dealing with Islam, you're dealing with a lunar force of deity. You're dealing with a lunar deity. You know, Islam should be actually called Allah. You know, in real essence, because Ramadan is actually done in the essence of the new moon, and it ends on it actually deals with the cycle of the moon. So you know, you have to look at the aspect, and obviously when you look at you know, the symbol is the crescent, the moon. So we have to look at those type of things. You know, like those things are the reasons why that we're born in various religions, and people who are not born into any religion, most likely there's a higher understanding. Obviously it depends on which cycle of the zodiac you're dealing with, because now we're tapping into esoteric astrology, which is something else completely. Esoteric astrology will actually deal with the cycles of your past, future and present life. You know, you could be at a particular cycle in the zodiac, so therefore means that a lifetime you're born as a Libra, and in the next lifetime you could be born as a Scorpio or a Capricorn, depending upon your learning and, you know, understanding. Some people can go through a whole zodiac wheel in a lifetime, because their mind is able to kind of bypass various aspects, and their willpower is able to transcend the whole zodiac wheel. You know, the astrological zodiac wheel can be transcended. You know, you can go further past those planets. You know, if you're wise enough, if you have that strength, the willpower, you know, if you have a higher understanding where you learn quick, then you're able to transcend those planets quickly. You probably don't even need to wear any gemstones. You probably don't even need to do any various type of prayers, because you know what to do. Your mind has strengthened to such a degree that you can actually go beyond the planets, and go straight into the will. Straight into the will. Go straight into the soul. Yeah? Straight into the soul. You explode. You basically just go forward. And that's very rare. But those that can, obviously, can bypass that and go through it. But I guarantee you 100% that most people are under the influence of the planets. Unless you've mastered the planetary energies, then, you know, you're a god. If you've mastered all the planetary energies, you're actually a god. You become a deity. You become a planet yourself. You know, you become an actual deity, because the planets themselves have a contract with us. We have a contract with these planets. These planets have an agenda. They require you to do certain prayers, You know, the reason why certain things will happen to you in your life is because obviously you have to pay homage to those planets. You own something, you've done something to someone or something. Now you have to kind of deal with that energy and kind of cure that energy. And you know, so this is why people will do certain various planet prayers to remove those kind of bondages, those barriers. So it's very important. So in order for you to be liberated from those kind of energies, you have to do your spiritual work. Meditation is the only way to liberate your soul. Meditation is the only way to break down those spheres and planetary energies which come into your life. It is the only way. It is the ultimate truth. It is the key. You know, this is why the Ankh is the key. It is the key to life. To master that and then transcend. You need to, the key to life, we know when you look at the Ankh, we have to look at the true aspect of the need. Because Venus deals with the indulgence, whereas Mars is the desire, right? But Venus deals with the indulgence, what we indulge in. What we indulge in becomes our reality. What we indulge in becomes our karma. Our karma is our karma. And our karma is the desire aspect of us, what we desire, what we indulge in is what we desire in essence, because the drive is the Mars aspect. We drive our energy, our force through Mars, and then obviously the desire builds in, and then we create a Venusian energy, and that's the key to life. Life in itself is a key which has been given in order for us to create a higher desire, a higher purpose, a higher feeling, and the Ankh is the highest key. Is the highest key. This is why the Ankh will be given into your mouth to transcend, you know, to transcend, to help one transcend to the next place. The Ankh is Venus. Venus is the Ankh. Isis, same thing, same characters. And this is what astrology is about. So in future videos, I'll be explaining and breaking down different ways and different techniques that one can use to solve one's life's issues with astrology. Like I said, this year, you know, I would like you to involve yourself and, you know, email me if you require any a reading, which I only charge £30 for the reading itself, and it lasts for an hour, and you'll be able to ask all types of questions in relation to your birth chart and the choices that you need to take in your life. Certain things which will be able to kind of remove certain karmic issues, obviously, should we say, to release certain aspects which are blocking your paths. So we'll be dealing with a lot of that in the reading, and then we'll look also at various health, how and what we can do to kind of you know, remove certain things and what can be done on a lighter aspect of it. And obviously not forgetting that you probably need to get a health consultation also if it's in relation to health, the reading is. So we'll look at certain psychological behaviors, how we can change certain ways of thinking, what was done in previous lives, which is why you ended up in this position. So we'll look at all those type of things which interlink with your birth chart. You know, your birth chart is you are the relationship between you and your birth chart. So we'll look at Saturn, and the main lesson of this life for you. Saturn will detail that in details and let you know what you need to do to kind of break through those barriers. So we'll look at those type of things. So we'll look at different aspects of your life, and it'll be very powerful and interesting to look into this, because it will not only give you guidance to what you need to do if you feel lost, but it will also give you a chance to extend and be on the path that you're meant to be on. So it's very important, and obviously there's various ways and various things that come into your life, and I can also teach you various ways at looking how the moon will affect you. I can also teach you from day to day how the moon will change phases and why you're going to feel a particular way. Because when we look at the deeper roles of astrology, we can look at the moon. The moon is really the main cycle, which actually is so important. Let me touch upon this. Around the constellation of Kali Major, or the moon, or should we say, sorry, Cancer, which is where Cali Major is. We also have the interlinked star, which is Sirius, and Sirius obviously resides in the sign of Cancer. So that in itself lets you know where the Dogons were, why the Dogons were watching this star, why it was so important to the Dogons to watch this Sirius journey, the Sirius journey. And one of the main source for the whole Sirius journey was actually to do with the moon. And this is why the moon is such an important key to Sirius. And obviously this is why I would link to the summer solstice and obviously the winter solstice, because when you look at the winter solstice, you're dealing with Capricorn, and Capricorn is obviously the opposite sign to Cancer, and Cancer is obviously governed by the moon. So this is why we look at both angles, and this is where the winter and the summer solstice are all linked in. And obviously this is the reason why the solstice was a very important time, because this is why the moon will be so important to how things are done. And on a day-to-day basis, the moon will change your reactive behavior towards things. So obviously on the full moon, there's always high levels of crimes and higher levels of things that are happening during that time. So that in itself will actually let you know the type of energies that will kick off. And so each 2.5 days you can look at the estimation of how the moon's influencing you. You can go into, if you want to start your year productively, what you can do, you can go into an astrological shop, or if there's none, what you can do is go online and order a moon calendar, and the moon calendar will let you know the different phases of the moon, so you know when to build. When it's obviously when it's a new moon, it's good for new projects. When it's a full moon, it's good for enhancing. When it's a waning moon, it's good to remove things out of your life, clear off negative energies, and so on and so forth. So you're able to do those type of things when you're working with the moon cycles. And obviously the moon moves through different signs, and the different signs obviously will have different relationships to how you're going to feel in relation to the moon. So one thing before I close this video, I want to say that what I want you to do is, if you can, get yourself a reading. Get yourself a reading, and if you can't get yourself a reading anytime soon, and obviously you can't afford it, it's too expensive, then obviously what I would advise you to do is start looking at your birth chart. Find out the time that you was born, the planets. You find out the time that you was born, the place, and obviously, yeah, the place, the time is the most important aspect in the year, obviously. And once you know the time that you was born and so on, you'll be able to kind of identify and see what's going on in your birth chart. And secondly, I would also say that look at your placement, where the moon is placed in your birth chart, where the moon is. Very important, because the moon will actually give you your sense of self. Your true sense of self is the moon sign. It's funny because when I speak to people, generally I always know their moon sign, but I always never know their sun sign for some reason, because I always know how they react for some weird reason. Maybe because I'm a moon Leo and I'm able to kind of see the sun, or should I say I'm able to see the moon from a solar perspective. But what I want you to do is actually identify your moon sign. Identify your moon sign, because in the early 19th century, or 20th century, you were able to kind of, even earlier than that, people were able to kind of, they were into astrology more than we are now today. They were able to identify their moon sign, because the newspapers during those times, in the early 20th century, the newspapers will actually give you the moon sign. Whereas when you look at the newspapers now, it will give you the the sun sign. They tell you your ego. So, and some people don't live out their ego. Some people live out most people live out their lunar cycle, their lunar energy. So this is why I would actually recommend that you look into your moon sign. That will begin giving you a sense of self in astrology, because your moon sign is different from your sun sign. Remember this, because your sun sign is actually where the sun was at the time of your birth. The moon sign is actually where the moon was at the time of your birth. See, you have different signs, and it's about assigning them to the right place and location. And by doing that, you'll be able to kind of perceive the right angle in your life, and you know where to go. So yeah, just to finish off, yeah, so I'm going to be doing readings, and I will also be doing Orgone pendants or Orgone amulets, which you can have in your pocket, you know, in relation to your to the planet and which is weak, that we may be able to strengthen, and in relation to the gemstone, which will link to it. So be in touch. If you want to be in touch in relation to the reading, email me at Orgone, which is ORGONE, at Orgone, same thing, hyphen, which is that line in the middle, energy.com. Email me with your details, which obviously would correlate to your date of birth, time of birth, place of birth, and the questions that you would like to be answered. In relations to that, also please describe the issues that you know, things that you want to have really answered, and also and then in relations to that, give me about a week or so, and then we'll take your reading from there, and either do a Skype reading, and if it's not necessary, you prefer to come, then I could do the consultation on a one-to-one basis, and then we can look at your birth chart. And obviously, if you wanna, you can also have a Orgone treatment, which is with the Egyptian rods I do. So you'll be able to hold the rods and get a form of therapy, which will actually strengthen your auric field. So in relations to that, we can add that into it. And the main aspect is for you to kind of begin transforming and kind of tapping into your soul, your soul's path, which is the most important aspect of you. So be in touch, and then obviously I'll be able to kind of answer your question. And if you want to make a direct payment to the birth chart, please simply send a payment via PayPal to Orgone at orgone-energy.com, and which is £30 in dollars. Please convert it. You can convert it. I think it's about $45 or something, and if you want to convert it from euros, but paying pounds, in that way it will be easier to kind of calculate it. But what you can do it in if you wanted to check the dollar price, then you can go on Google's and type in convert pounds to dollars, and then it will give you the right figure, or euros, or whichever what do you call it again, monetary system you want to use. So that way, like, it'll be straightforward, and I can take on your reading straight, or I can basically schedule you in for a reading, and a reading is an hour, so we'll be able to tap into it and talk about whatever issue you're going through, and it'll give you a clarification about your path. And I think it's very important for anyone to know their birth chart. I think it's the most beautiful thing that you could ask or give to yourself. It's the most beautiful present, because from there you can start, you know, going deeper into your meditation, going deeper into the path in your life that you want to undertake, and it's the most beautiful thing that you can do for yourself. So thank you for watching this video. Remember, be in touch, and you know, don't forget to email me, and if you want to speak directly to me, you can contact me on 07956268259.